Hi YouTube, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be watching Why Rudy is Probably the Knight, a Deltarune Theory by the Soph. I will link them down below. I have been a fan of their Deltarune theories for a while now, so yeah, let's just like dive right into it.
Welcome. Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 have finally been released after a 4-year-long content drought. And oh my god, my
Yeah,
brain was literally melting on how wrong my theories were. It was also melting because the fucking knight appeared at the end of Chapter 3 and started
I know that was crazy.
casually aura farming while curve stomping us. And after seeing this
Right.
absolutely diabolical entrance, it renewed my interest in discovering the knight's true identity. And after doing a lot of research and digging, pouring through every secret scene and the game's files, I think I might just know who they are. And it's not Carol or Des, it's Rudy. Spoilers.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people in the fandom lately have been saying that either Des or Mayor Holiday, yeah, or sorry, Carol. We got revealed that, but yeah, are the knight. So I want to see why they think that Rudy is the knight.
It's Rudy. In this video, I'll be going over all the evidence for and against Carol being the knight and Des being the knight, before explaining why I think Rudy might be the knight. I'll also be presenting evidence on why the Dreamer and Holiday families are both complicit in the knight's plot, and that includes Toriel. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Now,
Toriel too? I thought it was just like an Asgore thing, but I get why Chris wants to get Des back. But I didn't know Toriel was so like, invested in this like Asgore is. I'm sure Chris is. I don't know about Asriel and the rest of the Holiday family. I mean, like, I feel like Noelle's out of the loop. I feel like Noelle and Susie are like representations of like how we're supposed to think throughout the story. So
let's get right into
I
the
don't
video.
know.
Before we go over the many candidates for the knight's true identity, let's go over some basic information we learn about the knight in chapters 3 and 4. Let's start with the first thing you're bound to notice about the knight, their appearance. Ignoring how similar they look to the titans from the prophecy, and the fact that they literally have gaster hands,
Gaster?
the most obvious and damning aspect of their appearance is their antlers. Now, I've heard some people say that they could just be wearing armor, and this might just be how
Like that's a possibility, but I doubt it. It's definitely one of the Holiday family members. So I think I think the knight is Carol, Des, Rudy, or Noelle. It can't be Noelle. So I don't actually think that. I don't know. I don't know who I think it is. So I'm glad to hear what the Soph has to say.
their helmet is shaped, but at the beginning of the fight, the knight's body contorts and transforms in weird ways, including the supposed armor. So this is definitely not armor. At least it's not metal armor. This is either their skin transformed by the Dark World, similar to how Chris's skin is blue in the Dark World, or they're wearing magical armor that acts as like a skin-tight suit. Regardless, I highly doubt these antlers came from a metal helmet, which means that the knight has antlers. And there's only one family in Hometown that
The
has
Holiday
antlers,
family.
the Holidays.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's highly likely that the Roaring Knight is a member of the
I love Black and Knife. It's such a good song.
Holiday family, with the two most likely candidates being Noelle's mom, Carol Holiday, and Noelle's missing
Yeah.
sister, December Holiday. These are basically the only two credible knight candidates considered by the fandom, and it does make sense since there's mountains of evidence that point to either one of them being the knight. But before we get into all that evidence, there's one more thing I want to bring up about the knight, and that's their music. During the knight's fight, this absolute banger, which
Yeah, the Lost Girl, light motif plays, right? Is that what it's called? I'm not a music genius. I'm so sorry, but the theme plays at least, right?
listening to right now will play. Now, if any of you are familiar with Toby Fox's
The one in Lost Girl. I think it's also in Hometown, right?
music, then you know that he's a big fan of leitmotifs. A leitmotif is a repeated melodic phrase associated with a particular person, idea, or situation. Both Deltarune and Undertale's soundtracks utilize them heavily. Essentially, every major character and area in both games have their own leitmotifs, and music with their leitmotifs will play
Noelle's leitmotifs. I guess it's just a theme, but s like the leitmotif carries across like all the different songs, like integrates the characters, I guess. But Noelle's is Girl Next Door. I know that.
when they're on screen. Leitmotifs are also used to show a
Also, like definitely in the third Dark World in Chapter 3, Tenna's leitmotif slash theme is all across it. It's crazy.
Relationship between two characters. For example, Toriel's theme appears in Asgore's music since they were married, and Papyrus's theme shows up in Sans' music because they're brothers. Analyzing the Knight's battle music, called Black Knife on the OST,
I wonder, are they referring to like Sans the song? Or are they referring to Megalovania? Because I'm pretty sure I heard that Megalovania doesn't have any leitmotifs that connect it to like anything else, but I might be wrong. It might be that I don't know. Is Papyrus in Sans or Megalovania or both? I don't know.
you'll find some interesting leitmotivic discoveries. Is leitmotivic a word?
Yeah, literally me. That's like how I describe things. It's crazy. Like I don't know what's going on, but I'm here with you all. I swear. I swear I'm big brain Deltarune theorist too. Like
Well, it's a word now. For one, Black Knife sounds very similar to the songs The Chase and The Door from Chapter 1. Both of these
it
songs are
does.
played in major scenes involving the Knight or the dark worlds they create, so
That's so true. I did not realize that until now.
this makes sense. But it's not really that important to this theory. What is important is the fact that this song sounds very similar to the song Burn in Despair from Undertale.
Doesn't it have to do with Flowey?
Interestingly, this song is associated with
Azrael.
Azriel Dreamer since it plays during his
Well, we know that Azrael and Des are probably close, so
boss fight. Azriel's leitmotif appearing in the Knight's main theme implies that the Knight was close to Azriel, no? Which can be used to narrow down the Knight's identity further. Another song that I feel is referenced in Black Knife is Lost Girl. Like,
yeah.
maybe I've just gone insane after being exposed to 4 years worth of Deltarune brain rot,
No,
but
I
I
hear
swear
it
I can hear Lost
too.
Girl in this song. Like, I can't pinpoint any specific quotes of the song, but just
No, I can definitely hear it when it like not the first part, but like yeah, I don't know musical terms, guys. Like the bridge, or not. I guess it doesn't bridge anything together, but in the middle where it's like da na 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 like that. It's definitely in Black Knife. It's like duh. I can't do Black Knife, but it's definitely in there, guys. Just like listen for that melody. It is.
listen to the damn thing. This song is
Yeah,
like emanating Lost Girl from it.
this is my ringtone for like ever. When like a few days after I played Deltarune, this became my ringtone. So it's been my ringtone since 2021. So like I actually did update it. Now it is what is it? I think it's the third sanctuary. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I feel like both parts of Lost Girl can kind of sound like Black Knife.
I've seen some people reverse this song and claim that they can hear Lost Girl's motif in it, but I don't know about all that. What do you
Crazy,
think?
we're crazy. I can kind of hear it. Is that crazy? Wait,
Think.
that part. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Like I'm like literally so crazy, but I swear I hear it. Let me like slow it down. That probably won't help anything, but let me slow it down and see if I hear it.
I don't know about all that. What do you think?
Da na 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 na. Okay. Da na na na. Maybe not. I don't know. Sorry guys, my camera cut out. It's been doing this a little bit recently, so sorry guys. I didn't mean for it to cut out, but yeah, I was just listening back to Black Knife reversed, and I slowed it down, but I don't know if I can hear Lost Girl or not. But yeah, let's speed it back up. Honestly, it sounds like a different Toby Fox song, but I can't put my finger on it. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. It's that dun 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 dun, like the crescendo. I don't know. Oh, oh, wait a second. Okay. Oh, sorry guys, I'm having recording issues with my camera, but let's get back to the video.
Like, to be honest, I can't really hear it. Everyone in the comment section of a video I watch comparing the two swears they can hear it, but I just can't. The melodies have similar contours, but clearly they're not the same. Anyway, based purely on vibes, I still feel like this song is connected to Lost Girl in some way, and by extension, Noelle, and also
It's
maybe
definitely
Des,
connected.
since the rhythm minigame implies Des wrote the melody to Lost Girl on her guitar. But regardless, if you agree that these songs sound similar, this further connects the night to Noelle and the holiday family. Anyway, that's all the new information we learn about the night that's relevant to this video. Now let's get into the night candidates. Let's start with the mayor. There's a lot of evidence pointing to her being the knight. Too much evidence, in my opinion. Almost like she's a red herring, but whatever. For one, the mayor is always described as being busy, and it's like, what could she
Yeah, I think that the mayor is a good possibility, but I also think she's a red herring, but yeah, let's
possibly
see.
be so busy with? Hometown is a small town with literally no crime. So what sorts of things is Mayor Holiday getting up to all day, exactly? When we meet her for the first time, she comes off as cold and distant, literally lowering the temperature when she walks in the room. She also seems pretty confident in herself and has a particular disdain for Susie. The knight comes off as cocky and condescending in their boss
I think that I think that the mayor did not want, or Carol did not want Susie to touch that guitar, but I also feel like she just has disdain for Susie. I'm like, why? What for? You know, like I don't get it.
fight, and they also seem to have it out for Susie, so they definitely fit the mayor's character profile. Another interesting thing about the knight is the fact
And red herring when spoilers if you beat the night fight, um Susie and Rousey get knocked down, but the knight makes Chris kneel, which is kind of crazy. Like that like connects, uh Carol and Chris because they're uh at least they're in cahoots about something we know. But yeah.
they seem to trust Chris. They might even be working with them. If the knight defeats the Fun Gang in battle, the knight will
Yeah,
make Susie and
literally.
Rouse swoon, but will spare Chris. Specifically, they'll go up to them and place their blade on their shoulder, almost like they're knighting Chris. Then, they'll leave and Chris will just play dead, implying Chris is working with the knight and is trying to hide that fact. This fact is further supported by Chris's behavior.
I feel like it has to be either Rudy or Carol now because I feel like the the whole mission is to get Des back. And if the knight isn't Des, which I don't think it is, then it has to be a Lightner. Like we know it's a Lightner, like right? Which I guess Des would fit that, but she's been gone for so long. So I feel like it has to be someone Chris knows. Um, it could be Rudy, bro. And he's not accounted for because he's in the hospital most of the time. So could he create the chapter one Dark World? Yeah, he knows Toriel. Chapter two, definitely. It's like right there. Chapter three is Chris. Chapter four, a large person could fit inside. And I think I don't remember. Is Rudy tall? I don't know. But he's definitely skinny, but I don't know if he's like tall necessarily. But and he and Chris doesn't they don't like open the door. So I definitely feel like Carol was involved somehow though. Um maybe Carol set Rudy up to this and Rudy's like, I don't know if I want to do this. But Carol was like, yeah, you're going to do this. You're going to open dark fountains. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get revealed that Rudy kind of did this, but like he didn't want to, but he wants to save his daughter, Des. So I don't know. Let's see what Soph has to say about this.
Behavior during the knight's fight. They will do far less damage than normal during the beginning stages of the fight, even less damage than Rousey, which is very unusual. It's only after a party member falls down that Chris starts doing more damage, or more likely, the damage they were always capable of doing but just chose not to. Along with Chris holding back, the knight also seems to hold back during their fight. The knight will never insta-kill Chris like they do Susie and Rousey after a certain amount of hits, and this combined with the fact that the knight knew Chris opened the TV Dark World, as evidenced by the fact that Tenna claimed to have spoken to the knight previously, proves that Chris and the knight are working together. And you wanna know who else is not so secretly working with Chris? The mayor. After Chris rips out their soul in chapter 4, you can overhear them talking to someone on the phone. This mysterious caller mentions something about the next Dark World. Then, they'll warn Chris not to let Susie get to the guitar, probably because the guitar contains
That has to be Carol.
one of the codes to the bunker, which is where the knight took Undyne at the end of chapter 3. They mention some stuff about Chris's soul, the red soul, and then the caller mentions that the next Dark World is gonna be opened in the church.
But I think I know what the Soph is getting at here. Like, I feel like Rudy is being told by Carol to go. And it makes sense because no one would see Rudy and they wouldn't suspect. I guess the nurse might suspect something, but then again, I'm like, I don't know. It's actually really odd.
So, the person on the line is either the knight or they're working for the knight. And this caller is heavily implied to be
Working
Carol
for the
because after
night,
Susie
I
gets the
feel.
guitar, the caller says they'll be right over. And sure enough, moments later, the mayor shows up, even though Noelle said she would be working late. So this confirms that Carol is either the knight or knows who the knight is, since she has a
Yeah.
say in where the next Dark World will be opened. This also confirms that Chris is working for the mayor, just like they're working for the knight. At the end of chapter 4, the mayor even reminds Chris that they promised to do something for her, so clearly they have some sort of agreement worked out
Yeah.
between each other. Perhaps the most obvious piece of evidence that Carol is the knight is the giant-ass katana displayed in her kitchen. Guess this is how middle-aged suburban women keep themselves entertained these days, but this katana looks strikingly similar to the weapon used by the knight. The hilt of the blade
It also looks like a baseball bat though, so that leads to death. Like, why does it turn into a baseball bat? Or like, why is it a baseball bat to start with and then turns into a katana or like a knife sort of thing? Um, I'm so confused about that fact. Like, if it's Rudy, then why would it turn into why would it be baseball at first? Interesting. Let's see.
blade looks almost identical to the hilt of the blade used by the knight. And one of the knight's attacks involves shooting bullets that look like snowflakes, and as I mentioned earlier, the mayor is heavily associated with the cold. The hand she puts on Chris's shoulder feels cold. The temperature of the room seems to get colder when she enters. And at work, she likes the AC on full blast. So it's really starting to stack up here, and things are not looking too good for Mayor Holiday. But a question you may be asking is why the mayor would want to be the knight in the first place. And it's really quite simple. She's looking for her missing daughter, Des. Many people believe that Des is stuck in another plane of reality, like the depths, which is a theoretical plane of existence where all darkness originates from. People also believe that Des is the person speaking in the unused text in every chapter's code, so maybe the knight, aka the mayor, is opening Dark Worlds not to cause the roaring, but to try and find her daughter. It's certainly possible. Well, I shouldn't say it's possible. It's 100% confirmed that the mayor is actively searching for Des. How do I know this? Because she has a freaking conspiracy board in her bedroom, like
I
you'd
I
see in
know,
a
I
movie.
saw that.
Clearly this board is related to Des in some way, and this isn't like an unused sprite or anything. You can actually see the inside of Carol and Rudy's room through the vents, and you can even see a secret scene with Asgore where he vaguely alludes to Des's disappearance when he's looking at the conspiracy board, but I'll talk about that scene later. Regardless, clearly, the mayor is very motivated and obsessed with finding her daughter. Understandably so. Also, another very interesting thing about this room, you can't really see this very well in the game itself, but if you look into the game's files and see the sprite for this room, you'll see a katana with a black blade sitting by the mayor's bed. You know, a black blade, like the thing
The
the
black
knight gives us
knife.
if we beat it? Yeah. Totally not the knight's weapon, by the way. Anyway, that's the Carol Knight theory in a nutshell. Seems pretty cut and dry, right? Sure, but, if I'm being honest, I don't really think Carol's the knight. Call it a hunch, but something tells me the mayor is just a red herring. Just like how Chris was a red herring in Chapter 2. And look, fool me once, shame on you. But fool me twice, shame on me. I see right through Toby's little charades, and although I can't exactly prove the mayor isn't the knight, I feel like there are much better candidates to consider. So, what about this? Could she be the knight? Absolutely. First of all, take a look at the knight's weapon. What does it remind you of?
A
Me
bat.
personally, it reminds me of a baseball bat, and we know how much Des likes baseball. She even hit Chris with a wiffle bat once. And the knight certainly
Yeah.
looks like they're about to hold their weapon like a baseball bat in this animation, before switching to gripping it like a normal sword. And yes, I know from other angles this weapon looks like a sword, but we all know Dark Worlds can transform items, so maybe the Dark World just transformed Des's bat into a sword, kinda like how Chris's pencil transforms into a sword. This connection seems even stronger if you analyze the lyrics to Raise Up Your Bats. Just as a refresher, Raise Up Your Bats is the song that plays during Chapter 3's rhythm minigame. It's the one where Rousey changes all the lyrics on the fly, and just listen to the original lyrics of this song. When the demon heart is crying, and the blood is gushing bright, raise up your bat for the burning fight. When your hope is slowly dying, and your future's lost its rights, raise up your bat and face the fright, knock 'em dead into the night. Like bro, this literally sounds like Des explaining her motivation for raising up her bat and becoming the knight. And the fact that we're
It
raising up a
does.
bat is like way too specific. Clearly this has something to do with Des and baseball bats. And just listen to the chorus. Come follow me into the dark, with your heart as the arc, which shall shine you the way, because I'm with you in the dark, with your heart as my mark, which shall guide you the way.
I feel like the knight isn't necessarily just Des, but I feel like some part of it is Des because we know that Des is trapped in the code. So like how would that work if she's right here? She's the knight, So it's odd, and I feel like the baseball bat is definitely a red herring in some sort of way. So
Through the waves. Ignoring the don't forget reference, does this not literally sound like Des talking to Chris? Like, I have no proof of this, but I strongly suspect this is an in-universe song written by Des, and she's definitely talking to Chris in this song. Especially since it talks a lot about hearts, clearly referencing Chris's soul, so it kinda sounds like Des is encouraging Chris to do something, possibly related to creating Dark Worlds.
yeah, I think it is creating Dark Worlds because in chapter 2, at the end of chapter 2, we see Chris create a Dark World. Um, and it could be that Carol somehow like has contact. Well, she wants to find Des, so it's so odd. Like I don't know what's going on here. Let's see. I'm still a little confused about this, but
and I guess also fighting. I admit I don't know her exact motives for becoming the knight or why she would want Chris to help her, but I don't think anyone will truly know until the next chapter is released. Like, there just isn't enough information to really glean her motive. But I feel like this baseball connection is strong. Speaking of baseballs, maybe I'm just tripping, but doesn't the ball the knight transforms into kind of look like a baseball? Am I the only one who sees this? Another piece of evidence
honestly, it looked like a tennis ball to me, but they look similar, so.
pointing towards Des being the knight is the fact that the knight is left-handed. Just look at all of their animations. They almost exclusively swing their sword with their left hand. And do you want to know who else is left-handed? Des. If you look at Des's desk, you'll see that her mouse is on the left side of the computer, clearly indicating she's left-handed. Then there's all of the leitmotifs and the knight's theme that points towards Des. There's of course the superficial similarities between the track and Lost Girl, which might actually be Des's theme, not Noelle's, but that's up for debate. But the most interesting
It's definitely Des's theme. I don't think has to do with Noelle, but it's inside of some of Noelle's songs where, her leitmotif is too because, they're sisters, so.
musical connection is the fact that
But I definitely don't think it's like an extension of Noelle. I think it's definitely Des's, like her as a character's like leitmotif.
one of Azriel's songs seems to have been the foundation that The Black Knight was written on. Why does this song sound so
I feel like we haven't been giving enough like suspicion thrown towards Asriel because he's gone away. But like the more and more that like we think about it, like how do we not know that Asriel is going to be involved? Like, do we know that Asriel is gonna come back like tomorrow or whenever he's supposed to come back, or is he like been somewhere else the whole time? Has he been inside the bunker? Like, probably not, but like I don't know. Maybe he'll just come back, but like I doubt that. because they're putting increasingly more and more emphasis on Dessa's mystery and Azrael as a character. So I don't know. It's super confusing.
Similar to Burn in Despair? Well, like I said, it's probably because the knight had a close personal relationship with Azrael. And since Des used to be friends with Chris and Azrael, this makes sense. Especially since Azrael was around the same age as Des, so they were likely the closest. Des may have even been in love with Azrael for all we know. But I'll stay away from fanfiction territory for this video.
Yeah.
The last piece of evidence that points towards Des being the knight is the inspiration for the knight character. Basically, Toby Fox is a huge fan of the Mother series, and the knight is clearly inspired by an antagonist called the Masked Man from Mother 3. I'm about to spoil a huge part of Mother 3's plot, so if you don't want to hear that, I recommend you
Yeah, skip this part if you don't like spoilers. I might put a timestamp down below, maybe. Or maybe I'll put it on screen. But yeah, because I haven't played Mother 3. I've only played Earthbound, but I don't care about spoilers. But let's see, let's see.
skip to this timestamp right now. Okay, so basically, for those of you who don't know, the main character of Mother 3 is a kid named Lucas, and Lucas had a brother named Klaus who ran away to get revenge on the animal that killed his mom. He ended up going missing for several years and no one knew where he was. Well, it turns out he died, and the main villain's army revived him and turned him into the Masked Man, who is a major antagonist for Lucas. He, along with Lucas, are the only two people able to pull the 7 needles, and basically, the short of it is if an evil person pulls all of the 7 needles, then it'll cause the end of the world. So are we seeing the similarities between the Masked Man and
Yeah,
the Knight?
definitely.
Both are masked or unidentifiable individuals who either poke things or pull things from the earth in order to cause the end of the world. And assuming the Knight is Des, they are both the missing and presumed dead siblings of one of the main characters. So, like, depending on how heavily Mother 3 influenced the Knight's character, Des might be the Knight purely based on that. That's basically all the evidence pointing towards Des being the Knight. And I have to say, out of the two candidates, the Mayor and Des, I like Des better
This
because,
is
like, I just strongly suspect the Mayor is just a red herring, whereas Des is actually a serious candidate. Although there are a few parts of this theory that, like,
yeah, I think that it's definitely red herring for the mayor. I think Des is more likely to be the
don't really
knight.
make a lot of sense to me. For one, isn't Des supposed to be
But now I'm getting persuaded by the Soph. But yeah, I definitely think so now.
trapped in the game's code, or I guess the depths or whatever? I mean, come on, who else would the person in the game's code be other than Des? She's the only person established to be missing. Now, of course, it's always possible that the conversation Des has with herself in the code happened in the past and she's since escaped the code and became the Knight. Except if you read the text a little closer, it kind of implies that she's currently stuck in the code, like as we speak. I'm gonna read chapter 4's unused text.
Yeah, like why would this be in the past if the whole like theme is don't forget, you know what I mean? Like don't forget, I'm with you in the dark. Like that's supposed to like be towards Chris, I feel. And Chris wants to get Des back, and Chris is working with Carol to get Des back. Um, and possibly like this thing isn't Des. You know what I mean? Like I know that the Soph thinks is Rudy, but I'm just saying like this thing probably is isn't Des in a way, but has like her essence, or I don't know, maybe an object of her, like with a lightener combined. Like we'll get more lore on that like next chapter. I don't know. It's crazy.
Text to show what I mean. I'm starting to lose track of time. Has it been days? Hours? If someone told me it's been years, I might believe them. Before, the sun came up, and so many wonderful things happened that made time meaningful. Things like breakfast, or late night TV. In this place, I don't eat or drink anymore. I can't tell if I'm awake or dreaming. I can't even tell if I'm dead or alive. And it's just nothing but pitch black silence, except for this noise. The scratching noise I sometimes hear. This sounds crazy, but even though no one can hear me, when I hear that noise, I feel like someone's listening. Anyone, if you're there, thank you. So she's directly talking to us, the people looking through the game's code and reading the message right now. I guess the scratching noise is somehow caused by us. I guess by looking through the game's code, basically the fabric of its reality. This kind of implies that Des is trapped in the code right now as we speak, so can she really be the Knight? Also, if this is the night, this kind of muddies up the motivation of the mayor substantially, since it seems like the mayor is desperately trying to find her daughter, but at the same time is working for the night to open up dark worlds in order to search for Des. And it's like if Des is the night, then she already found Des. She doesn't need to do all
Yeah,
this.
that's the
So
weird
that would
thing.
mean she's opening dark worlds for another reason. That or she somehow doesn't know the night is her daughter, maybe. But then like, why is Des doing this? And why is she tricking her parents? I don't know. It feels a little confusing. I definitely think Death Knight has the most amount of evidence.
I feel like this is kind of like left field, out of left field, but like I feel like Des and Chris, there's something between them that they only know, not even like Carol or anyone else. I feel like, and that's what makes Chris want to open the dark fountain. And that's what makes Chris want the night to come to their house. So it's so odd, but I feel like it's something relating to that, maybe.
But it adds a layer of complexity to the story, and unless you add a bunch of extra context and explanation that we're not privy to, it kind of doesn't make a ton of sense. So I guess Carol Knight makes more sense, but like I said, I don't think the mayor is a very satisfying option. So what are we left with here? Well, there is one holiday we have yet to consider, and it's not Noel because like
Rudy.
the night is way too big to be Noel. It's Rudy. Couldn't he be the knight? Rudy would have like the same motivations to open up dark worlds as his wife.
I do think that we don't know what Des looks like, but I do think that it looks most like Rudy out of the four candidates.
To
So,
find Des, and
three
pretty much
candidates.
every bit of evidence that implicates Caro also implicates him, like the black katana on the foot of his bed. Again, totally not the knight's weapon, by the way. And is Rudy really just a sick, dying man? Or is there more to him? Could he have a dark side that he hides behind his friendliness and his illness? I admit I latched
Interesting.
onto the Rudy is the knight theory on my first playthrough, purely based on vibes, but through the power of confirmation bias, I have found quite a few hints that point to old Rootster being more than he seems. The
Yeah, I
first
don't
thing
know.
is his illness. At first, it seems like Rudy is completely bedbound, making it impossible for him to be the knight, except we see in chapter 4 that Bro can definitely walk. And besides, the knight like floats the entire time anyway, so like it wouldn't even matter if he can walk or not, he could still definitely fight. Obviously he would get tired, which might explain why the knight kind of ended the battle a bit early, but regardless, I think Rudy is more physically capable than he appears to be. A thing that I always wondered about.
I do think he's sick in some kind of way, but I don't think he's like terminally ill. You know what I mean? And I think that s- the so there's something there about the Dark World giving him strength. You know what I mean? Is that weird? I don't know.
Rudy is what exactly is causing his illness? I mean, I guess he could just have cancer, but what if the magical powers he wields as a knight is making him sick? At first, this seems like a baseless claim, but there is some evidence that the knight's powers can make people sick. Case
Like I don't think that the Knight created the Castletown Dark Fountain, so why would Rudy be sick before the first fountains even opened? Well, I guess Rudy opened that before, but like it was only one fountain. Would that make him so tired? I don't know. It's super odd. I don't know.
in point, Chris, they get physically ill during the night's boss fight. And this can't just be nervousness. I mean, just read these descriptions. You felt lightheaded, your vision narrows, your chest feels tight, you felt your
And it's
chest
like
twisting, you
Rudy's
felt a
sick too,
migraine coming
so
on, your heartbeat becomes twisted. Like,
sick
Bro needs
vibes.
life alert. These are like the textbook symptoms of a heart attack. And what's interesting is the fact that the knight notices that Chris is getting sick and reacts to it. Chris coughed. The knight slowly tilts its head. So the knight is getting concerned when Chris starts coughing, which is very interesting because coughing is the main symptom of Rudy's illness. So it's almost like the knight cares about Chris and doesn't want him to get sick like he is. Now, this line does appear later in the fight, so it's always possible that this is just Chris's way of signaling to the knight like, hey, you're getting washed here, can we maybe wrap things up? But I don't know. I feel like both interpretations are valid, so I'm just gonna go with the interpretation that helps my theory. Now, another interesting detail about the Knight's fight is the fact that Chris can hold their breath to make their soul go faster Now, why would holding your breath, of all things, give Chris an advantage in the fight? What's the relevance? Well, this could be because Rudy
They're
is always
sick.
out of breath. He's always having
I don't
these
know.
coughing fits, like his illness is in his lungs. And speaking of lungs, what's going on with the knight's lungs? Because when they power up for the first time, their body contorts in these weird shapes, especially
The
in the
ribs
chest area.
opening
Just see how
up.
distorted it looks. But when the knight does
Ribs,
its final
but
attack, look at its chest. It has this weird spiral thing in it. Like, what in the world could this be? My theory is that this spiral is the source of the knight's power. And since the source of the knight's power is in its
okay.
chest, maybe
I'm
that's why
hearing you
Rudy
out.
is so sick and why his health problems are related to his chest. I don't know, maybe this is just me tripping. Maybe I'm on to literally nothing. But I strongly feel like Rudy is the best candidate for being the knight. I mean, can you imagine how shocking that would be? The intrigue, the drama if Rudy was the knight? I know, it's hard to believe that a nice guy like Rudy would be the knight, especially when the knight is so arrogant in their fight and seems to have a very antagonistic relationship with Susie.
I don't ever think that the knight seems arrogant. Maybe Susie thinks that, but Chris definitely doesn't. But I don't think we as a player should see that as arrogant. I feel like it's more like determination. But like, yeah, like determined and strength. You know what I mean? It's not cocky. It's interesting. And I feel like if it was Des, it would be kind of cocky because I feel like Des gives off those vibes of, like not arrogant, I would say, but like, like show offy. But Rudy is definitely not like that. But like, I feel like maybe this is like his way of like showing off, but like not in an arrogant way. And Chris holds their breath because I don't know, Rudy's sick, doesn't want to get his sickness. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Since Rudy seems to like Susie, but I don't know. He did threaten to kick her ass that one time, so who
True.
knows? Maybe the knight is like his bad boy alter ego or some shit.
That's what I'm thinking. Like something like that,
Either
maybe.
way, I feel like narratively, Rudy makes the most amount of sense to be the knight, because otherwise, he's pretty much a nothing character. Like, I guess he's sick and Noelle's dead and also might die later, but I don't know. Whenever I make a video on why such and such person is
You're not giving Rudy as just his own character enough credit. It's not that. Like he's already a good character, I feel, but
the knight, I always ask myself, does this person's character improve if they're the knight? Do they become more interesting and compelling if they're the knight? And I feel
definitely.
like with Rudy, that's a hard yes. I should probably say that even if Rudy is the knight, that doesn't mean Carol is innocent. As Chris's phone call proves, she's heavily involved in the decision making on where the knight opens each dark world. And of course, the death conspiracy board is in his freaking bedroom. So yeah, if Rudy is the knight, he's definitely closely working with his wife. He's basically the bronze of the operation and Carol is the brains. Now,
Yeah.
there's one last thing I want to bring up with this whole Rudy Knight thing, and that's the timeline. The timeline of events lines up perfectly if Rudy is the knight, and let me explain. We see in Tenna's flashback the exact order that people stop showing up at the Dreamer household. And this is like a rough timeline on like which relationship deteriorated
Wasn't it
first
Carol?
and which order did they happen in. And we see that people left in this order: Des, Carol,
Uh
Asgore, Noelle, Rudy, and Azrael. I find it really odd that Rudy held out for so long, like even longer than fucking Asgore. And the reason I bring this up is because it's really strange that Des has been missing for so long, yet the knight is only taking steps to find her now. Like, the game's dialogue clearly indicates that these dark worlds are recent, so it's like, why is the knight only taking steps now? Well, if Rudy is the knight, maybe he was like resisting his wife's demands to become the knight for a long time and only gave in recently. I know some of you are saying, but the flash
yeah, and it's like Asgore and Carol like kept meeting up and like Rudy eventually found out about this and yeah, I see the vision, I see the vision, I see the
flashback
vision.
shows Rudy leaving when Chris was a little kid, so it couldn't have been recent. But come on, the flashback shows Azrael leaving home when Chris was a little kid, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because the dialogue clearly indicates that Azrael recently
Well, what if he
left
just
to
oh
go
sorry.
off to college. And if he left when Chris was a little kid,
What if he just doesn't like TV, doesn't like Tenna?
wouldn't he have
I'm
graduated
joking,
by
I'm
now?
joking.
So yeah, I don't think that we can take this flashback super literally. I think it just shows the general order that people left. But of course, any number of years could have taken place between each disappearance. So Rudy leaving could still be a semi-recent development. Obviously, it wouldn't have happened immediately before Chapter 1, since he would still have to be the knight for long enough to get sick. But maybe he was opening Dark Worlds off screen prior to
I
Chapter
feel like
1,
it's
only to put
definitely been
his
a few
plan into full
years
effect
since
now.
that
I admit this argument is a bit of a stretch, but I thought I would point it out. That's
flashback.
basically my theory on why Rudy is the knight, and there are a few
I'll be right back. Sorry guys, I had to do a few things, but I'm back. Let's dive right back into the video.
pointed out. That's basically my theory on why Rudy is the knight, and there are a few holes in this theory, like how the knight's song references one of Azriel's songs, implying that the knight was close to Azriel, which isn't necessarily true of Rudy. Like, yes, Rudy was friends with Azriel's parents and spent a lot of time with him in like a group setting, but I don't see any evidence of them having a very strong one-on-one relationship. I guess the motif in Burn in Despair could just be used to represent a situation or a feeling rather than a specific person, but I admit that this part of the theory is a bit weak. Another problem with the theory is the fact that the knight opened the Dark World in the same room as Noelle, and it's pretty inconceivable to me that Rudy would endanger his daughter like that, especially when he's so protective of her. I mean, I guess you could make the same argument for the mayor and Des, like why would the mayor want to endanger her daughter like that?
I mean, that's thinking that the night each Dark Fountain was created by the same night. I know it's heavily still like that chapter 3 and 4 like insisted that they are one identity, but I mean, it could be different people, but Queen did say that long arm when she was discussing the night, and that lines up with what we know about the night. Um, but yeah, I don't know, crazy.
She is a strict parent, but it seems like she still cares about Noelle. And why on earth would Des want to hurt Noelle when Des has been shown to be very protective
But why would Rudy take that dark form? Like, everyone has their own dark form, but that looks nothing like Rudy in like the typical sense. But like out of the candidates, I do think it looks like Rudy the most, but doesn't look like Rudy otherwise. So like, why? And we know there's weird shenanigans with Des, so why wouldn't it be Des? You know?
of her in the past, so perhaps this means that Noelle and Birdley entered the computer lab after the Dark World was created, meaning the Knight had no idea Noelle was gonna fall in. But I don't know, I feel like their position in the room implies that they were already in the computer lab when the Dark World was created, so maybe this is just a plot hole or there's something I'm not seeing. I don't know. At this point, I want to point out that it doesn't necessarily matter if Carol or Rudy is the Knight, since everyone is complicit in the Knight scheme. And by everyone, I don't just mean the holidays. I mean both the holiday and Dreamer families are involved. Apart from maybe Noelle and possibly Azriel, but that's to be determined. Now, I think the evidence that Chris is involved in this scheme is pretty clear-cut, but I will admit that the evidence against Toriel and Asgore is a lot weaker, but it's still there, so let's start with Asgore. He definitely knows more than he lets on. In Chapter 4, when you're like in the vents of Noelle's house, you can actually get a secret scene with Asgore if you go to the bathroom. Yes, you do have to watch him piss to get it, and yes, it is as creepy and voyeuristic as it sounds, but if you watch him in the bathroom, he'll eventually start talking to himself about something. Dum-de-dum. Phew, cleaning up sure works up an appetite. I wonder if the kitchen has any meals for me. No, not now. I can't afford to take a break. Now, more than ever, I need to concentrate, to settle this once and for all. I've got to go look again. After that, he leaves.
And it's like, why would Carol be helping Asgore if she kicked him off the Force? I guess it's not known that it was Carol who kicked Asgore off the Force. It could have been someone else. I doubt Undyne and Asgore have a strained relationship, and like he was like the chief police officer, so it had to be like Carol. I think we'll learn more about that next chapter, but yeah.
To go look at the conspiracy board in Carol and Rudy's room. You can follow him into that room and he talks to himself some more. We're almost there, aren't we, old friend? This time for sure, Tori will finally see what really happened, that I just wanted to protect everyone. And this time, she'll have to believe me. They all will. Then, we'll all be a happy family again.
Because like I feel like this happened once before, when Dessa initially went missing, and like there was this whole thing that happened after with Asgore and possibly Rudy, Toriel, and Carol. So
Won't we? It
I
sure
I
is
don't know.
beautiful, isn't it? This black shard. Like, bro, what? He's literally talking about the fucking black shard the knight gives us. This means he's absolutely in cahoots with the knight, no? And bro, what is Unk planning? Is he deadass gonna open a dark world with that katana? And we all know what Asgore is capable of when he's pushed into a corner. So frankly, I'm afraid for everyone's safety. But sorry, let me get back on topic. Not only does it seem like Asgore feels indebted to the mayor and is actively searching for Des, but he literally mentions the knight's weapon. There's no way he doesn't know.
why would Asgore be like? Well, Asgore's a friendly guy, but like, why would he be like so happy about that? Like, if like literally he lost his job because of Carol, something's up. Something happened.
About the Holidays plot to open more Dark Worlds to find Des. He absolutely has to know. Now let's move on to Toriel. I just want to preface this by saying that most of the evidence for this theory comes from the game's code as opposed to anything you can encounter playing normally. You could even argue that some of this is unused content, and I know some people don't consider that stuff canon, but it is in the code and I'm gonna talk about it. And Toby does like
I don't think it's necessarily canon, but I do think it's characterization still. I feel like the characterization can still be taken into account when making theories. So, because I feel like Toby has left stuff in the code purposely multiple times, as we all know. So,
leaving clues in his code to add more lore to the story anyway. So yeah, here's the evidence that Toriel might know more than she lets on. Shout out to JuiceCube on YouTube for making this discovery. I'll
go check them out.
link their video in the description below, but basically, in
I'll link them in my description as well.
the map for the Ice Palace level in the secret NES game, most of the mobs in there have their own placeholder sprites in the level editor. The placeholder for the little hooded Ice Mage is a deer, and the
Yeah,
Ice Mage is also called a deer in the files, so this is clearly
Noel.
Noelle. But along with there being like this normal looking brown deer, there's also a black deer placeholder sprite, and it's used in that room with the little weird black monster that mirrors her movements. The placeholder for this sprite is called sprite underscore board underscore deer underscore black. So like, can we all agree that this is totally Des? Like, the brown counterpart is clearly Noelle, so wouldn't the black counterpart be Des?
Yeah, it probably is Des, right? Or the Knight. It is also confusing, but I remember in that mini game, when you press the button, you get to control uh Des in like until like you go up behind and then Chris like stabs Des, which is us. I like not actually Des, but you know what I mean. So I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like we as a player are unintentionally mocking Chris some way and somehow by doing that. Maybe it's reminiscent from a past event of I don't know. It's so odd, but Chris and Des definitely know something.
Anyway, if you analyze the code for the black deer placeholder, you'll see that this placeholder has a lot of weird properties and characteristics to it. It's definitely not normal for a placeholder sprite. Like with the brown deer, it's just a regular placeholder. There isn't anything interesting with it. But with the black deer, there's a lot of interesting properties and extra code that doesn't seem to do anything. For one, when the black deer spawns, the code initializes a variable called Toriel and sets it to true. This Toriel variable seems to control whether or not the black deer is replaced with the black monster in the game. Basically, it checks if the Toriel variable is true, and if it is, it will replace the black deer sprite with the black monster sprite. If you get rid of this line or you
Interesting.
set the Toriel variable to false, then the black deer will spawn in place of the black monster. And this black deer has walking animations for it, which is weird since the sprite seems to be unused. So it kind of feels like Toby wanted people to find this. And this is just like so incredibly
Definitely. I
weird.
think
Like,
so
why is the
too.
variable called Toriel, and why does a variable need to exist that determines if the black deer is replaced with the black monster? Like, there's no situation where the black deer would be in place of the black monster, so why add all of this extra code that does nothing? Why not just change the black deer to the black monster unconditionally? Like the code changes the brown deer into Noelle unconditionally. Like, clearly Toby wanted us to find this variable called Toriel and was, I guess, trying to hint towards something. And the only thing I could guess that he's trying to hint towards is that maybe Toriel isn't being completely honest with her children about Des's disappearance, hence why the Toriel variable needs to be set to true in order to hide Des's sprite and replace it with the black monster. So I guess she's hiding something about Des, and the question is, what is she hiding and why is she hiding it? From the short interaction Toriel has with Rudy, it seems like her and the mayor don't like each other, like she won't even call the mayor by her name. So I don't necessarily think she's deeply involved in the Knight's plot to find Des, but I do think she's probably aware of it, hence why
She's probably aware of it and she doesn't like it because we know that Asgore says that Toriel isn't like isn't seeing it like Asgore and Carol are seeing it. So I definitely think Toriel's very avoidant of this situation. Um hopefully we get more of that. I was hoping we'd get like more of Toriel's character in chapter 3, but I feel like we need to explore how Toriel like kind of avoids her problems. You know what I mean? Especially at the end of chapter 4 too. It kind of showed that, but yeah.
She doesn't like the mayor that much. Editing me here. One thing I forgot to mention is the fact that there's evidence Toriel is rooting for the knight. If the knight defeats you in battle and you check Toriel, the narration will say she's sleeping peacefully. But if you beat the knight in battle, the
Yeah,
narration will
I
say
remember
her face is
that.
contorted. It looks like she's having a nightmare. I just find that
I remember getting both of those texts, but I didn't put two and two together that they were completely
really
opposite.
interesting. Do with that information what you will, but I think it makes her look pretty sus. Anyway, let's get back to the video. But regardless, clearly all of the adults in these families are either directly complicit in the knight's plan or are aware of it and aren't doing anything to stop it. And now they've wrapped in poor Chris. Like, I genuinely feel bad for them. I don't think there's a single adult truly looking out for their best interests. Like, why on earth would you involve a child in your psychotic evil plan? Like, drop some prayer emojis in the comments for Chris, because I don't know. There's a lot of bad parenting going on in this game. This is the end of the video, but if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and
I did
subscribe
enjoy it.
for more
Thank you.
Undertale Deltarune Theory content. And if you want to support me in a more personal way,
Yeah,
consider
go
becoming a
check them
channel
out.
member or joining my Patreon to get updates and early access to future videos. Thank you to my wonderful members, Mira Jaded, Silly Willy Billy Silly, Gray Leno, Shoshi,
Well, that was a fun video. I'm definitely interested on Rudy being the knight as a candidate. I think it's cool. I like the idea, but I don't know if it logistically makes that much sense. I think that the clues are kind of misleading. And I think that as a story, like I feel like it would be a lot better if Rudy was the knight, but the clues are so complex and convoluted that I don't know. It's confusing to tell what's what. With the bat and like how they look, the horns, like it's interesting. I've also seen there's a video out there of Asgore being the knight. I might need to check that one out too. But I don't think so because it's definitely antlers. It's not like horns. So I don't know. But yeah, definitely go subscribe to the Soph, and I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.